Stop directing individual body part, give them intention. When should you stop directing? This is where photographers often lose the strongest friend. Photographing people can feel like you're constantly searching for the next instruction. One of the hardest things when you're a photographer and photographing somebody who isn't a professional model is knowing how much direction to give them. Give too little and they can freeze. Give too much and you can actually start getting in their way and freezing the shoot down. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I read somebody's response in front of my camera and how I actually decide when they need more direction or less, and how actually I recognize when somebody's beginning to give me photographs that simply follow instructions. It's about learning how to recognize what that person in front of you is already giving you. And over time, I've actually started organizing this data system, which I call SUBJEX. I've also made this index free, available in the PDF link down below in the description. Click that and you'll get a free PDF so you can use the same processes on your own portrait sessions and learn your own system to help you take better portraits. And by the end of this video, I want you to stop asking, what pose should I give them next? Let me just show you what I mean. These photographs are all made under identical conditions. Same studio, same basic lighting, same camera. I only gave them 3 minutes of photographic time. I gave them the same set of questions. Some people still waiting for me to create almost everything when they were posing, but others had already started giving me photographic material of their own making. I wanted to ask each of them the same questions and see how photographically responsive they were. I'm trying to understand how much more I need to give them to get the best out of them. At the bottom of the subject scale, I'm doing all most of the work. I'm positioning, reassuring, I'm working and creating the variations. And at the top of the scale, the relationship is very different between them and me. The person understands their own presence, they give me ideas, they help develop mine. Eventually, I might barely direct them at all. And the number isn't telling me how good they are, it's telling me how much extra I need to do to get the best out of them. But before I show you the whole scale, let's look at the real 3-minute test with a model, because this is where it becomes useful. How much actual direction do they need? So let's start with Vladut. When he first stepped in front of the camera, my initial reaction was that he was giving me very little. The body was fairly static, there wasn't much variations happening without my input, and I wasn't actually seeing much of his personality yet. So my subject's reading was very low, 1 out of 8, 1.5 stars. Now that isn't the conclusion. That score tells me what I need to do next to get the best out of them. At this level, I know I can just stand back and wait for him to create the photographs, but they won't be very good. So I have to give him more structure. So I simplify. I give him something specific, one change, one movement, one instruction, and then watch what comes back. After working with him for a short time, I begin to see a little bit more response. There's slightly more awareness. He's beginning to understand what I'm asking. There's still a lot coming from me, but I'm starting to get something back. So I move him to 2 out of 8 and 2 stars. And this is important for you to understand. As his response changes, my input has to change as well. I can now give him slightly more room. I can stop constructing every single detail and see whether he'll be adding anything on his own. So then there becomes the transformation. And this is the first change that I want you to make in your portrait session. Instead of thinking, I need a better pose, I don't know any poses, think, I need a better response to this model, this subject. Those are not the same thing at all. Technically, a good pose can still feel completely dead. And sometimes a very small change in behavior tells me far more than another pose ever could. So let's just assess his pictures. Now, as we continue, something else starts appearing. He becomes more animated. There's more character, more personality. He's beginning to give me something I can actually work with rather than simply follow. But by the end of these 3 minutes, I'd move him again up to 3 out of 8 and 2.5 stars. That doesn't suddenly make him the right person for every type of photographic assignment that I've got, but I've learned something more important about him. His strength for me isn't really conventional fashion or lookbooks. What starts to appear is his character, there's personality there. There's something I could see working much more naturally in lifestyle, character advertising, or potentially acting. So my conclusion becomes great for character or lifestyle, definitely not for fashion, especially for me. And that really demonstrates something important about subjects. It's not simply trying to push everybody towards an 8. I'm learning how they respond to me and how I need to work with them and where their strengths may actually belong to help me. That's what you need to do in your portraits. You need to find out what they're doing. Here's where it gets more difficult, okay? Because someone can give you lots of movement, lots of expression and lots of energy and still not be giving you a particularly strong response. Why, you might ask? Because not everything happens in front of the camera is authentic. It's acting or a stage show, and that's not authenticity. Look at this subject. He's certainly doing something. That's expression, there's gesture, there's energy, but for me, I can still see the act. It feels considered, almost as though he's selecting something he thinks the camera wants, and because I can still see them performing, I will keep him relatively low on my response scale, perhaps somewhere around a 3 or 4. Now comparing with this subject, Alexandros, he's also performing. He's using his hands, he's exaggerating, he's playing, he's feeling different. The gestures don't feel practiced, they don't feel repeated. There's no sense that he's reaching for the same stock response again and again. He's discovering things as he goes, and for me, that moves him forward and upwards towards a 5 or 6. So this becomes another important subjects principle. I'm not looking for whether somebody is acting, I'm looking for whether the action feels owned and authentic. Someone can laugh, jump, or exaggerate, or even perform. They can become completely theatrical and still feel believable. The question is, does this behaviour belong to them? Or am I watching them perform an idea of what they think the model should be and what I'm expecting? That distinction completely changes how I direct and how you should be directing the models. If I see somebody performing too hard, I often reduce what I'm asking. I slow them down. I remove the instructions. Sometimes I talk. Sometimes I deliberately stop photographing for a moment. I'm trying to get underneath their performance. But with somebody whose responses already feel natural, I do almost the opposite thing. And this is what you've got to learn. I give them more room. Give them more room. Give them more room. And here's the other example. Because he understands his own presence. He's standing in front of the camera. He's relaxed. He's aware of himself. Nothing feels forced. And he doesn't need to throw its arms around to create the photograph. Presence can outrank performance. A quiet subject can be extremely responsive, but if somebody's already giving you that much, every extra instruction risks taking something away. So what I want you to learn is, at the top end of the scale, you have to change, not them. Give them intention, an idea, a scenario, and then watch. Because at this point, your job is less about constructing the photograph and more about simply recognizing it, or their authenticity is actually performing in front of you. And one of the things I watch most carefully is what happens immediately after an instruction. If you give somebody something to do, they'll do it. And sometimes you deliberately don't take the photograph. I don't take the photograph, I wait. Because immediately after a direction, the shoulders might drop, the hands might move, the eyes might shift, and for a fraction of a second, they stop performing that instruction. And very often that's a frame I want. So rather than thinking, pose, photograph, watch for something more like direction, response, adjustment, transition, recognition, because then you'll spot the shot in between the shots. And once you spot that shot, you can go off on a tangent and make the pictures look fantastically normal and authentic. And once you begin seeing portrait photography that way, you become much less dependent on memorizing poses. That's every photographer's worst nightmare, working out what poses you're going to work with in the first instance. So here's the simplest way to use the subject response index yourself. At 1 and 2, you support, slow down, reduce pressure, make things simple. At 3 and 4, you guide them, clear direction, achievable changes, build confidence. And at 5 and 6, that's when you start to develop them, give broader ideas, allow interpretation, reduce micro direction. And at 7 and 8, release, I release, you release, stop interfering with them, watch, anticipate and recognize. And this is the important part. The score isn't really telling me how good they are, it's telling them how good I am and what I need to do more to help them to bring the best out of them for your shoot. Somebody like Lucy, for example, reached the top end of the scale very quickly, highly engaged, confident, animated. She understood what she was doing. So try this out on your next portrait session. Give somebody 1 or 2 simple directions, then don't photograph immediately. Wait, see what they do, watch their eyes, watch their shoulders, watch their hands, watch what happens when they think the instruction is finished. Ask yourself, are they still actually waiting for me? Are they beginning to contribute to the frame, to the pictures, to the authenticity? Are they actually performing something that is beneficial to the shoot, or does it feel owned? And most importantly, do I need to do more or shall I do less? Before you understand this, photographing people can feel like you're constantly searching for the next instruction, another pose, another expression, another thing to tell them. But once you begin to read the person instead, then the relationship changes between you and the model. You start treating everybody the same, and you start recognizing when somebody needs support, when they need guidance, and when you can develop what they're giving to you. So what I've done is I've put a complete subjects response index below in the link. Click on that link, you'll get it for free. Keep it on your phone, take it into a shoot, use it to remind yourself to watch the person before automatically giving them another instruction. Read the subject and direct the subject. That's what you need to do. And if you like this, I'm James Nader. Get your free subjects index below. Look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for watching.